Well, guys, welcome to the next episode, the
Hold on, we do it
newest
again.
episode. Nope, we're gonna keep it rolling.
Oh,
So, welcome back to the Legal Lounge podcast.
oh
If
my
you don't know
goodness.
who we are, if you're new, this is Kerensa. She is the host, and I
Host.
am Cody. I am the co-host. She's having
But I messed up. We were talking about lunch and then got distracted.
yeah, and then part of it's also because she has the giggles every time we do this. So, fun fact behind the scenes, know a little bit about her. She literally has to start this like 4 times before she gets her giggles away. But
It's
yeah,
partly your fault because you always start me like that. Anyways, welcome back. Like Cody introduced us for this week's topic. It will be a sensitive topic this week. We're touching a subject on the recent shooting that happened in Georgia. So if this is a topic that you may or may not want to tune into, that's completely fine. Keep us in the loop for next week for the next week's topic.
podcast. Yeah.
topic. But
Before we
yeah,
start, definitely prayers out to all the families and
yes,
everybody who was affected by this. It's not something that you should have to go through, and yeah, prayers out to everybody and their families because it's a terrible thing that happened. So
terrible. And then that's what I want to focus on is to how can we protect the kids, man? Like these elementary, middle school kids, even high school kids, like these gun violences are going out of control.
I think just like with a lot of things in this like world on the evil side of things, is just proper parenting.
Do you think it's
Parents
all
need,
about parenting?
I think a lot of it has to do with parenting. There's probably some things that kids just grow up and people just grow up with, that's mental illnesses and things that affect them. It's really complex, but I think at the end of the day, proper parenting and negligent parenting are typically the reasons behind things like this. Like let's say like drunk driving, car accidents.
Mm-hmm.
What When do you draw a line on young teens and young people to where it's like you need to make sure that these things are taught the right way, because negligence is going to be the perfect opportunity for something bad to happen. If you're negligent about something, then you're not watching it, you're not being careful, it's reckless. And that's what happens with a lot of these things. Like in this specific situation, I think it was negligent, and I think it has something to do with the parents. So if you guys don't know, it was a school shooting in, where was it?
It happened in Georgia, Appalachia High School. Colt Gray, he's a 14-year-old student there, opened fire with an AR style rifle, killing 4 individuals, two 14-year-old students,
Two teachers, right?
two teachers,
Yeah.
correct. And then there were several others that were injured during the shooting, but there were 4 casualties.
May they rest in peace. It's something that it's so crazy that you think back. I know Mario's behind the scenes right now, but I don't know if he knows had to ever do this, but like there's drills for school shootings in school.
I was gonna bring that up. So when I was in school, we didn't have that. It was, I don't
When
want
I
to
was
say.
in school, we did.
Right. So
And
it wasn't a thing for me. It was regular, it's just straight fire drill, regular thing. But my mom's a teacher, so when she
mm,
first told me that some of the like regulations changed throughout the state of
mm,
Texas, and now there's like active shooter drills now, I was
yes,
like, man, that's
and it's
scary
scary because
times.
sometimes they don't tell you. I think out of the you know, uh, what's it called? Like out of the like the teachers being aware of how that could probably affect us if we don't know. Because sometimes there's drills that you don't know are going
Mm-hmm.
on. But I think sometimes the teachers have enough respect to be like, "Hey, yeah, there's gonna be a drill."
Yeah.
Because I mean, what if you didn't know that there was like it was just a drill?
Right.
Yeah, that's scary. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Kids having panic attacks and be like, oh my god,"
What's
and
the
the
big difference? Like, what's the difference between, in your perspective, like what was different about the active shooter drill compared to like fire drill? What did you have to do?
so a fire drill is just like bzz, bzz, they have the things they go on, and then your classroom has a specific route to take. So y'all bundle up, go in a line. After you do the fire drills, you find the nearest exit. You walk out into the field, and you kind of line up by class. Um, the active scooter drills are a little bit different. It's more so like, there's like an alarm that goes off, and then
Oh,
in
there
the
is
in
still an
the
alarm.
I think so. It's not like a fire alarm, but I think
Mm,
it's like a bzz, bzz, and then the announcement comes on. It's like, this is a active shooter drill, or there is a active shooter. Um, Please, take barricade, take shelter, find the nearest classroom. For kids that may be in the restroom or
yeah.
something. Typically, I think the teachers would be like, "No, don't go into the restroom right now,"
Right.
just because it's a drill. But it's the dumbest thing, They lock the doors. They have this little piece of paper, I think, that covers the little window on
Mm,
the classroom door, and you basically all just go into a corner of the room.
mm,
And to me, I always thought that was silly. It may save some lives, and you turn the lights off too. So you turn the lights
mhm.
off, cover the thing, and but every kid, I mean, if you're a kid, and most of these people are kids rather than like adults, a lot of the Columbine was teenagers too,
Right.
right? So, um, if you're a kid, everybody's in the classrooms.
Right.
Everybody's gonna be in the class. Me, I don't care what the teacher says. I'm taking my chances running out the room. I'm gone.
No, I wouldn't do
Nah,
that.
you're crazy.
I
Mm-mm.
wouldn't do that.
I'm doing it. I'm taking my chances with that. What do you expect me to sit there like a sitting duck and wait for the shooter to go door by door by
Okay,
door?
what if you run the corner and there's a shooter?
I'm taking my chances.
I can't. Uh-uh.
But think about it. I mean, most of these classrooms are hallways. They're
Right.
open hallways. You're not going to just turn a corner and be like, oh, you might hear some shots popping off or something. And it's like, that's where you just got
But
to.
what if you don't know if it's one or two? Like you said, Columbine, there were two kids. It wasn't just one kid.
Do you think that they're
What
going to
if
be
there's
separated?
multiple?
Those two kids were together.
Right.
I'm taking my chances. I'm going to put like a book or two in my backpack. I'll put like 2 big textbooks in my backpack,
You
and my
know,
laptop's gonna be in there, and I'm gonna pray that if the worst case scenario happens, my back is turned towards it, and I get hit in the back, and somehow the books stop it, at least.
there's backpacks like that now. There's bulletproof
That's
backpacks
insane.
now.
Yeah, but I'm taking my chances
That's
because,
crazy.
like, it's not easy to hit a moving target, first of all. Moving target in the sense that, in a gun range or something like that, there's moving targets, or, duck hunting, disc shooting. It's not easy to hit. Given that disc shooting, it's typically buckshot or something like that when you're shooting and you're hunting. But, am I gonna trust the fact that this 14-year-old shooter isn't a professional shooter, and he's probably just gonna get, he's not gonna be able to bing, 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 bing accurately.
Right.
I'm gonna take my chances. I'm gonna peek my head into the hallway. I'm looking left, I'm looking right, and I'm going to the most open area, and I'm just gonna hope as soon as I turn that corner, if I look left and that hallway is clear, there's nobody in there, and I hit this corner and I peek my head around the corner and I see one there, I'm going the opposite way. And
Yeah.
if the worst case scenario happens and there is more than one and I run to one, I'm just gonna trust my faith and try to make it out alive. But, they get into that classroom and y'all all bundled up in the corner, you don't really gotta move much.
Mhm.
The best thing the only thing I could think of is if I'm in a classroom and they start popping the door and they hit the lock on the door and now it's not locked anymore.
Right. And
Then
then
what? I'm throwing a desk. I'm gonna hope one of those first ones doesn't hit me, and I'm throwing a desk and I'm just gonna charge. You got what else can you do?
yeah.
Sit there and be like, "No, don't shoot. You're not gonna change that kid's heart
And then
or
you
his
brought up
mind."
a interesting point because the I have statistics on the ages. So this is between 2000 and 2019, but between those years, 29 out of 62 active shooting incidents happened with the kids ages younger than 18.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
so
the additional 10 shooters were between 18 to 21. So the own kids that's going to the school are the one that's causing this
yeah, and
issues and
it's just
violence.
so sad.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that we have an issue with, and it's like
So
it's
let me
never with a freaking handgun. It's
I know,
always
it's
with an
always a
AR-15 because I don't know
rifle,
what kids
shotgun.
kids think that that would do more damage or anything, but I don't like, it's just it's always it's almost like it's a look. Like, it's
Mm,
like a look. It's like the trench coat with with the rifle, you know? And it's not whether it's an assault rifle or an AR-15, I think they just use weird words personally because I just know a little bit about this stuff. But it's like you can do just as much damage with, one of these rifles with a handgun as well,
mhm.
you know? And so, and then again, a handgun is more concealable. So I literally think that it's genuinely like a look. Like, it's
Right,
the look. You don't need a giant rifle to do the same amount of, it's like they don't try to hide it at all. They
right.
go in and it's like, oh yeah,
It's for
it's like a
attention.
video game. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an attention thing. It's to fill their little evil egos. And it doesn't make sense to me. And I think a lot of these situations has to do with the negligence of the parents. Like, okay, if this one, right?
Well, let me get into that before we kind of discuss more. So, when we're recording this, it's September 9th. So this happened in September 4th. So just a couple days before it happened last week. Again, this 14-year-old Colt Gray who was attending in an Appalachian high school in Georgia. He was the one that went into school early in the morning. If it sounds like he went to school and then
Like,
he
came late.
left his algebra class and then returned with the rifle. And when he was unable to re enter his original classroom, he targeted neighboring classroom, firing multiple shots. A school resource officer confronted Gray, who then surrendered and was taken into custody without further violence. Dang, it's a school officer that confronted. I always thought it was cops
N
that got him.
I mean, sometimes I've heard of stories where the school officers, they don't do nothing.
Yeah.
They just, like, run
We have
away.
regular security. It wasn't
And it's
even
like
like an officer.
there's officers, but, man, I just don't get how, like, he does all that and then he just surrenders. I get, like, there's a morality
It's
thing,
an
but
attention, I'm telling you.
if a kid has a gun and he's already, acted upon that weapon and used it against other people to harm them, why do you think that once he sees you, I mean, I guess there could be a reason why, because, oh, like, oh, the police are here, let me
Mhm.
stop. Um, where I stand is that if you're old enough to do those types of things, you're old enough to deal with the consequences.
Oh, 100%.
So,
So, if so for Colt, he was in the law enforcement's radar, like you were about to mention, before the shooting due to previous threats made against the school. So in 2023, when he was 13, he was investigated for making threats online, but no charges were filed at the time. Despite those red flags, his father allowed him access to firearms, leading to the tragic event. So
the
he was
FBI
gifted.
investigate him, right?
Yes, he was gifted by his dad, the rifle.
And they were apparently a hunting family, so it's like the again, I think the problem was with the parent, right? It's because any normal, typical family that hunts and does a lot of that stuff, it's not abnormal for, a child to have their own hunting rifle
Mhm.
or something like that. But hunting rifles can be AR-15s, they can be like lever action or like bolt action stuff or just like a little like shotgun with some buckshot. But the fact that he got investigated first and then the father, like for online threats, because
Mhm.
surely I don't know what the online threats were, but if he was investigated by the FBI for online threats, I'm sure the dad knew what the online threats were. And if your child's saying some things like this, why would you purchase them a firearm?
Mhm.
Why would you do that?
I watch. I think it's a YouTube channel called Criminal Law. I don't know. Don't quote me, but it's a bunch of surveillance cameras. The what's it called? The cop
Body cam?
body cams footages, and those are always interesting to me. So I watched one. He was a kid. He was a teenager, but I think he was 18 though. So I don't think he was like a minor anymore. But he was still living with his parents, and I believe was on the spectrum of autism, I think. And then he had homicidal thoughts and he always had those thoughts and he would write them. He would journal about them.
Hmm.
And in one entry he would put down that my parents won't help me. I have all these thoughts and I've talked to them, I told them about them, but they won't help me.
Hmm.
And then he still committed a crime and killed a homeless guy. He was experimenting. He probably would have turn into a serial killer had he hadn't been caught, but he
He
killed a
acted on
homeless
his
guy.
thoughts
Right,
because he was allowed to continue having them and didn't get any help to try to suppress them.
right,
So then he, what any person does is they act upon their thoughts and their feelings, and it comes out,
right,
and if you act upon your feelings, it's the same thing with, like, if you act upon your anger, that's when it becomes a problem. It's
right.
okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. But once you act upon those emotions, that's whenever it could turn really bad.
Mhm.
And then that's where things like that is like, you know, people need help. Kids need help.
But again, like,
Who's
parents knew
better?
that in
Yeah.
that situation, and with this kid here, obviously the parents were involved during the investigation. Why don't you try to seek help? Now, this just happened, so who knows what further investigation that happened, but I think it should have been further investigated,
I
obviously,
mean,
for what
kids are
happened
smart too,
now. Yeah.
Kids are smart. Like,
He
just
could have,
because,
like, brushed it off and been like, "Oh, that was just me being silly. I was just, making a joke." But
yeah,
that's not a joke. And
it's
then
hard to, like, it's a fine line in between, like, blaming the father. The problem was he bought the gun after investigated by the FBI. That was silly. But, parents, they never know whenever their kid's gonna do that, and if they knew their kid was gonna do that, I'm sure they would do everything in their power to not let it happen.
right,
However, the negligence is what the issue is,
right.
and just like with a lot of different things, people need kids need their parents, and you gotta guide them.
Mhm.
So that's where the negligence of the father was, and it's like, you didn't do a good enough job, and now you have to sit here and face the families of the children that were affected, and the teachers that were affected by this situation because of your negligence. That's a heavy way.
Mhm.
That's a heavy hit.
So, Cook Gray is now being tried as an adult, facing multiple felony murder charges. His father, Colin Gray, has been charged with involuntary manslaughter and other serious offenses for providing his son access to the firearm. Both have been appeared in court but have not entered their pleas. So, this is as of recently. So, who knows? By the time this episode gets up, maybe there's more information, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 8 counts of cruelty to children. These charges indicate that prosecutors believe he had a direct role in enabling the circumstances that led to the shooting by providing his son with the weapon.
Did he use the weapon that his dad bought him to do that?
I don't know if
I
that
tried to
has
look into that too, and like
came out
what
or not.
weapon he
Yeah.
used, what it looked like, or anything like that. But nonetheless, it's like, he's man, it's like America is the only one. Like, for instance, I'm gonna go behind the scenes right here real quick. Mario, do you growing up in Honduras, do you ever remember doing school shooting drills or anything like that?
Never.
Not once. Yeah.
It's not a thing that it's not a thought that ever crossed my mind
And you grew
growing
up
up.
in Japan a
Mhm.
little bit, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember doing school shooting
No,
drills?
because gun is very restricted in Japan. It's almost illegal. It's not completely illegal, but it's almost illegal. So we don't have a gun, like we don't have a high gun
What
violence.
about the restriction in your country, in Honduras? Is there a lot of restrictions in Honduras compared to here, or is it kind of almost like the same, to where it's accessible, but you just have to do a little bit to get it?
It's accessible. It's usually not something that every family has.
Hmm.
It's more so related to gang violence, but
Mhm.
Yeah. Right.
normal families usually do not have a weapon in their home.
Right.
So I have statistics on that too. I pulled gun deaths. This is in 2019, but the highest country with that, what do you think? Which country?
Gun deaths.
Mhm.
The highest country.
Mhm.
Is this one that I wouldn't expect? Because I have a feeling it's probably us.
No, it's not us.
Okay, let me take another guess then.
We are second though. I will say that.
Gun deaths. Mexico?
No, I thought so too because of the gang, violence over there, but it's Brazil.
Oh, I was gonna oh, that's okay,
Yeah.
I can understand that one.
Yeah, 49,437. United States is second,
Brazil's really
37,040.
bad in some areas, like,
Yeah.
really, really,
Mhm.
really bad.
Mexico is third. Fourth is India, which that surprised me. Colombia, Venezuela,
Third
Philippines.
is what?
Third is Mexico, Guatemala, Nigeria, and Iraq.
Yeah.
So those are the gun
Because
statistics.
in, like, Brazil and places like that, they have, like, they're almost like little, what are they called? Little
Favelas.
yeah, the favelas, and
It's like almost segregated communities
yeah,
for poor
Oh,
people
really?
only. Yeah.
yeah,
I
It's
and
didn't
a
know
there's
lot
that.
of
really
inequality there.
and then
Mm.
there's, like, little, like, little they're like little striker teams. Not like anything military-wise, but they're, I forget what they're called. There's a name for them, but they're little groups. They're not
Lightning? Lightning?
kind of like it starts with a C, I think.
Hmm.
Like little I don't know, but there are like little group. It's like a military gang
Mm.
to where they have groups of people that regulate traffic through bridges. You know, there's people riding around on motorcycles with the AK, 47s and AK style rifles, and they ride in bikes or trucks, and they'll regulate stuff. And in the favelas, they control those areas.
Wow.
They control it because it's like out of all these poor people, it's like we can control this entire community, get money and rent, and
There's a lot of
take from
robbing that
people.
happened in Brazil. I know
Yeah,
that.
and I've seen videos of, like, people that go travel and they go into the hood in Brazil or in the favelas of Brazil, and they'll get somebody to bring them around, and they have a camera, and they're like, "Put the camera down." When they pass those they're like stops, little like in Mexico,
Mhm.
and, like, like the border patrol, there's stops, and the same exact thing. Look in the car, "Where you from?" Like, "What are you doing here?" And if you're not from there, you're a target.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen the videos where they ride around on motorcycles and stuff, and whenever they see those people, just put your camera down. Don't
Yeah.
say anything. They'll have guns. They'll walk up to you and stuff like that. It's like little gangs, little cartels, basically,
Well,
the
even in
favelas.
Mexico, my parents lived in Juarez for a while after COVID, and then
Oh, that's the border city?
yeah.
That's a really bad thing too.
Yes.
Like, literally, you will see, like, bodies hanging
Like,
from the
we
bridge.
try to make sure if we're gonna cross the border, we'll take the less, like, not so great car to go across the border
Mhm.
with, and if we're carrying electronics, if we step out of the car, like, there's guys that patrols around parking lots to make sure you're good. You have to tip them, but we hide stuff underneath our car. I mean, same thing here. Like, my husband's really good about telling the kids, like, "Hey, put the tablets, underneath the seat or whatever," but in Mexico, like, try not to bring those
No,
because
yeah, it's, like,
they'll
legitimate.
break in
Juarez
easily.
is really bad,
Yeah.
like, really, really bad. You like cartel is heavy in those areas, and the military and the police, it's like a war. It's like a little mini war zone. They
It has
find
gotten a lot
bodies.
better though in the past recent years.
Nah,
Well, just in like the society perspective, it has because it used to be a lot worse. It used to be really, really bad.
I think Mexico has gotten worse since back then, for sure. Man, like, my mom always told me, like, back then, you know, just like she
Well, it
she grew
depends
up
on
in
how far you going back then. If
well,
we're talking 90s, 2000, yeah, it was way better then. But if we're talking mid 2000s, it was a lot worse then and it kind of calmed down since then.
yeah,
That's
with,
what I
like, the
mean
whole
back then.
cartel
Yeah.
stuff, like, when that was popular in the news and stuff, yeah. But, yeah, it's like little mini war zones,
Mhm.
and it's just crazy because that has to do with poverty, and this has to do with parenting,
Mhm.
I mean, I can't really say, this is exactly the root cause of it. There's external factors in it. There's different variables that go into it, but
So what do you
these are
think it needs
kids.
to be fixed to help fix this?
Parenting and healthcare.
Healthcare by how?
Mental health. I mean, think about it. What's the suicide rates of our country?
I don't know, Mario.
That's an important factor too. You think
Yeah.
about that. You think about healthcare. You think about the homeless. You think about the people dealing with mental illnesses, how expensive it is to get help. You think about the people that are on
I think
the
the expensive
streets.
part is the biggest thing. Our healthcare is not free. You had to get insurance.
It's like
That's not cheap.
I mean, this office is, it's not the worst area, but if you keep on going down 1960, there's a lot of things that are messed up. These homeless people have mental illnesses to where they're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you know?
So since 2022, out of 100,000 people, 15 commit suicide.
15
15
in the U.S.
in the
Can
US.
you look up the highest rates
by
per country?
country.
Yeah. Yo, pinch Coke. Ha ha. You know me a Coke. Gyro. You know me a gyro, actually.
I bet you. So when I was looking at the statistics for even gun violence, European countries did not get listed at all. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, because a lot of, like, for instance, United Kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have guns. Well, they have 3D printed guns. There's a way around it. Yes. They don't have like actual firearms and gun stores where you can go get a gun. However, you look at the stabbing rates, you
Mm-hmm.
look at by the death by stabbings, super high.
It's like that in Japan too. Our
Yeah.
suicide rate is atrocious, and there's a lot of stabbing.
Yeah, given that there's like, Japan I think is it's not even it's weird cuz like you notice it in anime too.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. There's a lot of anime like there's this one called Jujutsu Kaisen, right? And it has to do with almost like cursed spirits, right? There's a lot of them that when there's a cursed spirit around, they get suicide or they get in that depressive state. So it's almost like it gets depicted through shows as well. And then, there was an incident where there was a specific YouTuber that went to Japan and was going through
Mm-hmm.
a specific forest
Mm-hmm.
and videotaped because they found an actual, deceased person that had, did it to themselves as self-inflicted. And so, um, you think about this stuff and it's like, what is where's the correlation?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because okay, if we're having problems with, little kids going and doing these types of acts and they have mental illnesses, and then you have the homeless. It has to do with the mental illnesses and the help and the healthcare and stuff like that. That puts people on the streets and starts them down that path. And then you have the parenting. And then you have the people that are going through these mental illnesses that are actually normal people, but they feel like committing, doing things to themselves and they have those thoughts in themselves and they feel like they can't get help.
And even with this kid too, his mom was an addict, and she served time in prison. And I think Peyton mentioned that she was recently released from prison, so that could play in effect too.
Trauma,
Right.
trauma
Your
based
own
stuff.
parents, yeah.
So,
So the top 5 countries by suicide rate: number 1, Lithuania; number
okay.
2, Russia;
Okay.
number 3, Guyana; number 4, South Korea; number
Mm.
5, Belarus. And the
Where are we at?
hold on, and the top 5 like best or with the least amount of suicides per capita,
Mm-hmm.
it's Saudi Arabia, Egypt,
Mm.
Jordan, and Pakistan. All
Some
Middle
Middle
Eastern
East.
countries.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Because then you said which one was Pakistan or what? What?
Iraq was part
Iraq
of
death by
right.
firearm.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. That is really interesting. I would have never get because that was
I thought
Lithuania. That's like that's North. What's it called? It's not Asia, is it? No, it's what's next to. Where's Russia? What's that region called?
It's between Europe. So one part is in Europe and the
In
other
the
part is in Asia. It's in
Yeah,
both
it's like in
continents.
between it, right?
Yeah,
There's like a little strip that has all of those. There's Russia, and then there's Uzbekistan, and like Turkey is near all of that, which is really kind of surprising. South Korea, I can understand because they're regulated like a prison, normal people. But it's like for to get back and reflect on us as like the United States. When do you start realizing that healthcare could play a big part in this?
yeah.
Because yes, there's a lot of opportunities in the United States and stuff like that, but there's also the cons of people need help.
Did you know in some countries it's legal for assisted?
Suicide?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. And that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, if we
I think there's
If you wanna have a really real conversation, which one would you take? A person who has thoughts about doing terrible things to people, places, and children, or the route for an assisted suicide? What would you
yeah, but
choose?
I don't well, we don't know yet, but I don't think this kid had suicidal thoughts.
No, 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 but I'm saying that if people don't get help with those types of thoughts, instead of if they're not thinking if they start thinking they wanna do it to themselves, but then they don't wanna do it to themselves because they don't have the dignity to do it, the drive to really do that, because you have to have a lot of strength to do something like that.
But
Like, your
it's like,
mind's
but
gotta
if
be
you
set.
want somebody else to assist you to it, do you really wanna do it?
Yeah, possibly. But then when do they start thinking about, okay, well, maybe I don't really want to do it to myself as much more than I want to do it to somebody else. I want to take my anger out on somebody else.
Yeah.
And if they don't have they don't, it's just it's a super complex thing, and I think it just all boils down to healthcare and the mental care and the parenting.
Yeah. I think it needs to be before you purchase a gun, I think you need to go through a psych evaluation.
Yeah.
I think that should be part of it. That's just my opinion.
But how do you what like a test?
Yeah.
Anybody can pass a test. We are
But like go
bred
through I know.
we're
I mean,
bred to take tests since a little
just
kid.
like anything, you can regulate things so many ways. People are still gonna find their ways to do it, just like drugs. You can ban and legalize, not illegalize, drugs, but people are gonna still find a way to do it.
Right.
Guns are the same thing, but you can at least do the initiative to just let you let's get you evaluated through a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever.
Think about that on a massive scale for every single person, because we already have all the gun stores. They're all there.
Yeah.
To go back and to regulate everything one by one, that's gonna cost a ton of money, right? You're gonna have to worry about, okay, these places and the government has to regulate tons of psychologists, right? And then you have to regulate the tests, right? And if it's not just a test, because anybody can lie on a test, these people can, if they know right from wrong, they could read a question and be like, okay, I know what I want to do, but I know what the test is
Right.
wanting me to answer, and then answer the right thing.
Right.
So yeah, if you get a psychological evaluation, that's better, but how much money is that gonna cost to have every single how many firearms are purchased in a year? Because you think about that, then you have to understand that there's probably gonna be at least a month process,
If not, probably longer.
if not longer,
Yeah.
right? Let's say there's 200,000. Let's see.
So in 2023, there's an estimate suggests that around 21 million firearms were purchased in the
Mhm.
US.
And
21 million. That is so many. Imagine if all those people had to have an evaluation.
and my college professor says that there's loopholes in even gun shows, but it's easier to get guns through like gun shows and stuff like that. So
I've
there's
heard of that
loopholes
too.
too.
And just for the record, I am do you support firearms?
Yes, we
Okay,
have.
I'm also a supporter of firearms, right? So, right to bear arms, I understand that, but I also think it's very, very, very important for people to understand the safety and the different aspects of a firearm. It is not a toy. It is not. It can be a sport for adults, people that do it. Yes, I understand that, but a firearm is not a toy, and it's not something that you could play around with. It's shown in video games. Little kids have like, did you ever have a cap gun? Have you ever had a cap gun, like the little cap guns you get from the store? It's like little toys, you put the little red things in there, and when you pull it, it pops.
Yeah.
Okay, things like this, we're shown we're exposed to it since children.
Mhm.
So it's like the safety and the understanding that this is not a toy needs to happen. There's Nerf guns and stuff. I understand, but personally, if I have a child, I don't know whether or not I would let them even have toys that have like gun toys.
Okay, so what about video games? Call of Duty.
Yeah. So there's a reason why Call of Duty is rated M for mature, though.
But like our kids play Call of Duty.
I was one of those kids that also had Call of Duty at a younger age
Yeah.
too, right? So it's like, but I was also like, for instance, okay, proper example. My brother has a child, right? My brother was the one that taught me firearm safety. I've always grown up with them and have been taught this is not a toy. You don't point it at anybody.
Mhm.
With his child, I think he has some like little like laser guns and stuff like that. But if there's one thing that I've always noticed is he doesn't point it at anybody because
Mm.
he was taught you don't
Mhm.
point these
Right.
things at people.
Right.
You can play around with it, shoot it at the wall like the little sucker ones where or like bone arrow ones that you can shoot and it'll
Yeah.
stick to the wall. You can shoot it at the wall, but you don't point it at people, you don't shoot it at people.
Right.
And it's a very like but that's it's a fine line because it's like, it's like, oh, he's just cowboys and Indians,
Right.
right? Or like, different things like that. Legend of Zelda. Like he loves
But it
that game.
starts young, understanding this is what you don't do
Yeah.
when an object that looked like this, like a gun, like you don't
Yes.
do that,
Yeah.
you
Because
know?
then you grow up and you grow up and you think it's okay if you're not taught that it's a weapon. It's not
Mhm.
a toy.
Mhm.
It's self-defense. This is something that's very, very real and could turn very badly.
So there's even instances in school. I think my brother was even one of them. I think he snuck in like a toy gun and he was in elementary school. He didn't get suspended or anything, but very, very harsh call to my mom like, "Hey, your son brought a gun to school." I was like, "What?" I mean, it was a toy.
Mhm.
But I
What
mean,
type of toy?
just
Like a
like a
BB
regular,
gun?
yeah, I'm pretty sure,
See, I had an instance in my middle school that a kid either brought a BB gun or like a real one and
Mm.
had it in his locker. I think it was a BB
I
gun.
was like, "That's two
At least
very different
I hope it was a
things."
BB gun, but I think that kid like legitimately got like
Yeah,
arrested.
because they can't even do this at school with their hands.
No,
They'll
I
get in
mean,
trouble if
oh
they do
yeah.
this,
And that's the same thing that, like it's not a toy.
Yeah.
People think it's a toy. It's like I think every parent needs to teach their child, especially for like, there's different positive reasons on why you should teach your child about firearms. And I know there's people out there that don't like firearms and you think that you should ban them. I understand the reasoning why. I completely understand. But for me personally, I think there's more pros that could save your life and many other people's lives to protect your family and the people that
Right.
you love if you have the knowledge
Mhm.
about it. Like for women, I think it's also important because there's a lot of bad things that happen to young women that are out and alone and they're by themselves and they could be a target. I think it's important for, women and young children, not young children, but older like teenagers to be
Mhm.
able to understand, hey, look, like let's say they have a father, hey, look, if I'm never home and it's you and your mother and something bad happens, this is why you would need to understand because it could save y'all's lives.
Right.
It could save, and for instance, if it's for people that have in Texas, open carry is legal.
Mhm.
Concealed carry is not. So if
Right.
your firearm is in your pocket, in your pants, in a jacket, that's concealed. If you don't have a concealed license, you can't do that. It's illegal.
Yes.
Um, but if you think about it, if there's a shooter in a grocery store, which I think has happened before too, right? Like in grocery stores and public movies.
Right.
There was one in a
Movies.
movie theater,
Yes.
right? We know about
The
that one.
Batman. Yeah.
Yes. So for instance, if there's somebody there that has a concealed carry or open carry license and they're trained to use it in that situation, that one person can save hundreds of lives. And that's where I think that the pros outweigh the cons.
So
In the hands of the right person. And I think that's what really matters is the person behind the firearm.
there's even conversations about should teachers now be allowed to carry firearms to school because
That's an
like certain
interesting
like
one.
like government buildings and even like buildings themselves can have its own restrictions.
Hmm.
Like you can't do even open carry at all. You
Yeah.
can ban firearms.
Public areas,
School was one of them, unless you're an officer obviously, then you will have to have one, but you're not
government
able to,
buildings.
right, you're not able to have one on you. So what do you think about that for teachers to keep the kids
Hmm.
safe? Like, teachers should start carrying weapons
Hmm.
and
So just off of not giving it much thought, I may be missing some points. So, and again, don't come at me in the comments, please. And you want to have a conversation, we can have a comment. I'm so open to that. Because I can understand why not. I get it.
yeah.
Like my mom, for instance, she doesn't like them. She does not like them. Did she have one? Yes, she had one, but she doesn't even touch the thing,
Mhm.
and she does not like them, right? So, for teachers to have one in those situations, yeah, I can understand that. But at the same time, what's the point of the security officers if you have the teachers with them?
'Cause
Why
you're
not?
in the classroom. There's only so many officers. But if
Would you
one of the
rather?
kids just stood up and just be like, "Oh, Imma start shooting in the classroom that I'm in right now," who's to save everybody else?
That's
But if
true.
you had a teacher that had a gun, then you can
But then that's an extremely crazy dynamic because who's gonna get to it quicker?
and then
Action is always gonna be faster than reaction.
but
So if
then
a
it could
student
also sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Well, so if a student gets up and he has a gun, he's like, "Okay, Imma start shooting." Action is always faster than reaction. If he knows the teacher has a gun, that's the first target. And
But
that's another thing with open carry. That's where it could be a con too, because it's like, okay, you're open carry, but if there's a shooter and they see your gun, you're gonna be the first target too.
it could be potential to prevent
It
too.
could.
Cause like, why would you now bring a gun to school to start shooting everybody when you know almost every, if not every single teacher in the classroom is carrying? So, like, why would you
I don't
bring one?
I don't think every teacher should have one though. Because you think about it, there's elderly teachers, there's teachers that don't know how to use it, never really used it before. But now if they had to be trained to use it, I
Right.
can understand that. But where I was gonna go is maybe appointed teachers that have
Mhm.
passed courses and have certificates to do something like that.
Yeah.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea, but at the same time, if you're gonna do all that and put the teachers through all that, all the teachers, why not just have more security on the school?
Maybe they can't afford it. That's more hours,
But then you'll have to
you know?
afford all of the teachers going
And then
through
that means our
certification
taxes will be
programs,
higher.
and then the taxes are gonna be higher, right? So then you have to think about in a structural point of view of the government and taxes and having to invest all the money in it, would it be better off just to have better trained security officers and more security on the school? Or would it be more optimal to make every teacher go through certifications and have a firearm in the class or in a safe or something like that? But you think about it, the teacher's not just going, what are they just going to have like a holster? Or are they going to have to put it up?
Mhm.
Are they gonna have it? They're probably gonna have it
It
in a
has to
safe
be
or
right.
locked up, right?
Right.
But then if you have a shooter that stands up, what are you gonna go do? Go okay, be like, hold on, let me go to my safe and beep
Yeah.
boop beep boop boop. You're not gonna have enough time
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
So then it's like now our teachers are gonna have what holsters on them?
Yeah.
That's
That
crazy.
is crazy.
Whenever maybe with more security on the schools and m- better trained, you know, security officers and police school officers or more of them, maybe that could prevent it before it even gets to the classroom.
I just wanna know how this kid was able to leave and then come back with it.
They don't have security.
I don't
Same thing,
understand.
okay, like, in school, I remember because I'm only, I'm, like, 12 years old, basically, compared to her. No, but, whenever I was in high school, kids would leave off campus to go get food all the
Right, I
time.
did too.
I never
We
did it.
snuck out through the gym and then I wasn't supposed to go to lunch as a freshman, but I would go with the upperclassmen and snuck out and go to lunch anyway.
Yeah, see, now I was too scared to do anything. I'm like, "I'm gonna get in
I
trouble."
did that every day.
Nah, and that's what I'm saying. If they could do that every
Yeah.
day, dude, they can do anything every day. There's kids that bring, drugs to school. They have pills and other things, and then you go into the bathroom. Like if they can sneak drugs in, if people can sneak guns in to schools, they could sneak anything in.
Yeah.
So where is it? So now, what do you have to look at? Now you have to look at the security. Yeah, the parent. So it's like the teachers. I've heard about the teachers getting firearms thing, but that's if the student's already in there. What if you can prevent it before they even get into the
That's what
classroom
I'm
with that?
saying, right.
Security.
So, I used to have this bad, like, judgment towards school that have, metal detectors. I was like, "Oh, that's ghetto."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh,
No,
I don't
yeah, I
wanna go to a
mean,
school like that," but now I understand. Now I don't mind if, you know, the kids, the school that they go to now, they say, oh, okay, well, we're going to start regulating clear backpacks. Like our oldest, her last school that she went to, she had to do
That's
clear
not a bad
backpacks.
idea too.
Even
Clear
I had
backpack.
clear backpacks or mesh. That's what we
Yeah.
were allowed to, you know, to wear. Now her new school, they don't do that. So poor thing, she's still carrying her clear backpack.
Yeah.
I want to get her a new one, but I don't mind if they install metal detectors for middle and
That's
high school.
cool.
You know what I mean?
Cause
Maybe
you think about
elementary,
it,
I don't know, but
it's looked at as ghetto or not necessarily ghetto, but it's looked at as like a, oh, we have to have metal detectors in our school. Like, gosh, that sucks. But at the same time, imagine what that could just prevent.
right,
Clear backpacks. Now you can't put anything in your backpack. There's stuff in there, right? I mean, obviously there's gonna be little ways. It's almost
right.
like a prison. If prison people can get, shanks, stuff like that, etc. Kids will too, but the prison people are adults. They'll go to further like extensive,
But like metal
things to get it.
detectors, I wouldn't mind. Like
Put metal, yeah.
they would do like last week of school, no backpacks. Nobody can bring backpacks, nothing. They just have to have whatever that they can hold in their hands. And they did have metal detectors just in case. But I was okay with it. Like, you know,
I
I'd
would.
rather be the kids be safe.
You know what? I wonder if there's any statistics out there that's saying schools with metal detectors and the types of crimes or what are those things called? Like not write ups, but like schools with metal detectors versus without metal detectors and the amount of instances they had with students being in trouble
That might be vague
from
though.
it might be, but I'm willing to bet if there was, the schools with metal detectors have way less
Gun violence,
instances.
maybe,
No,
but
not necessarily gun because that's gonna be super vague,
right.
but anything, just, drugs, weapons, knives, anything like that. I'm sure that the ones with metal detectors will probably be able to have lower instances where, um, it got inside versus public schools that don't have them and the amount of instances that they can just freely walk in with. But I mean, I'm willing to bet that there's probably not enough statistics out there for that. But if you keep it in mind, it's like, when you because we've talked about a couple different points, right? Parenting, firearms, and now we're on security. So now if the parenting fails, at least you have the security.
Mhm.
And if the security fails, then what?
Yeah.
Then nothing. Or if there's no security. So if the parenting fails, there's no filter. It's like, okay, if this, because you can't just have like, okay, well, this fails, there's no plan B. You know, if this fails, the parenting, because it starts with the parenting. I feel like
Mhm.
it's it starts with the parenting. Now, once the parenting fails, the healthcare, and the healthcare fails, now you even
No,
have
healthcare
security.
has to be at
You
the
think
top.
healthcare is at the top?
Yeah,
Well, the
because like
parents
you
have to.
try
You
to
parent first. If your parenting fails and they need
right.
help, now you have to go to healthcare. Though.
Well, okay. Yeah. Maybe either or. Maybe it's like
Well,
in the
parenting and
mesh.
healthcare, we'll put it in
Yeah.
the same, right? Parenting, healthcare, right? Parenting fails and the healthcare fails. You have nothing after that. Like school drills, that's it.
I know.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Now you have at least a filter that can filter out the security, you know, or the. I mean, I'm sure. Like the emergency responses, they're gonna be as fast as possible as they can in the scene. Have you ever seen the videos of them like clearing the rooms and stuff? That's scary. They gotta go through a lot,
Mhm. You have to go through one room at a
and
time.
it's like it's go time. You have no time to sit there and be like, "Oh, I'm scared." Like if I think I've heard like instances where there's been security officers that didn't act on their first instinct. Like
I
you
think it was
fail.
Uvalde.
Was that what it
The
was?
one that happened
And they
in
didn't like
Texas.
go in and they went outside and they got too scared. Something like that,
Something
right?
like that. Yeah, but they failed at the point of entrance at Uvalde.
And that's what I'm saying is like those people should not be there,
Right.
right? And so it's like either more security on the campus or or both, more officers and more
I
security.
mean, I went to schools where we didn't have officers at all. And then I went to one school to where it was hit or miss if the security was going to be there or
Yeah, we had I remember seeing some, I'm sure they were around, but they weren't always
not.
inside walking through the halls. But you'd see them every now and then and it's like do what's what is the value of a life? There is no value. So, yeah, are we gonna have to pay more taxes? And we're gonna have to pay more money so our schools can have better security, so our children can be safe? Is that really that much to ask for? I'm sure everybody can agree. The people that had children, you want them to be safe at school.
Mhm.
You know, it's another thing why parents they cry on their first days of school because now you're not going to be next to them. You can't monitor. Now they're out on their own, right? I'm sure everybody with the child can agree. I mean, as long as you love your child, it's better for everybody. Yes, we'll have to pay more, but don't we want our children to be safe in their schools when they're learning to help the society in the long run, in the future
But it
of the
just sucks that you even have to think about that,
it
you know what
does,
I
but that's
mean?
the reality of the world we live
That
in.
wasn't a conversation 20 years ago, you know? It really became more apparent when Columbine happened, and it just kinda spiraled out of control after that.
Yeah,
And it
and
just sucks.
but it's an evil world, and
Yeah.
you can't go back. You know, it happened, and this is what it is now. So what are you gonna do to fix it? And that's where you have to turn to, like, to do everything you can. Nobody's gonna want because it could be anybody's child. It could
Mhm.
be anybody's child, and once you get that text, "Oh my gosh, there's a school," like, you're that parent's gonna be worried. It
I
could be
know,
anybody's kid. It could be anybody's parent.
I seen that video where all the parents were running toward, I guess, like, they evacuated to a, like, stadium
Yeah.
outside, like, a football stadium
Mhm.
for those kids in Appalachian High School, and you can see all those parents just, like, literally running across the parking lot to try to see if they can find their kid, and then it's
Yeah.
like, what if you don't find your kid that day, you know?
Yeah.
Just I can't imagine.
And that's the worst thing is and that's the thing is, like, people will be like, "Well, I'm gonna be paying for other people." It's like, no, it's like, it could be your kid.
Right.
Are you willing to take that chance? Oh, you're not willing to take that chance? Okay, so then why don't we all come together and figure out a way to fight it,
You know,
Because
there's even a rise of parents taking the kids out of public schools and homeschooling
yeah,
them now,
yeah,
and
and I
I've
mean, more power to you,
yeah.
but at the same time, it's not as I don't know, okay, it's hard for me to say it's not good as good as an education, but it's not as organized
Right.
as an entire school, and the programs and the opportunities aren't the same either.
Mhm.
So it's like but it's the fact that we even have to do this. It sucks, but this is the world that we live in, and it's so, so terrible.
I mean, something has to get fixed for sure. Like, if this is one case, there's thousands of other cases that's happening.
Yeah. How do you feel about all the stuff that you asked me, like the teachers carrying fire? What do you
Um,
think about that?
I like
Because I
the
feel like I
idea
gave
of
some valid points in
I
there.
like that you mentioned about the appointed teachers. I don't think I would be against that at all. I think that's very smart. As long as, like I said, now for those people, I think you need to go through those evals and a lot of tests and courses to make sure that you have the proper education
Yeah.
to protect. It would be a plus if it's like
I was
ex-military,
just about to say that. I was
like
like, and even if they're like ex law
right,
enforcement,
right.
ex-military, like, because there's a lot of teachers that have
Mhm.
been in the military before. I feel like that's a job that people would do. You're in the military, this and that. Now, you want to settle down.
Like,
Maybe
you wouldn't
teaching's
be
for
scared
you.
to do it, like, I see my mom, like, I love my mom to death, but I don't see her pulling out a gun to, like,
Exactly.
go
That's
against
what
a
I'm thinking too.
shooter,
Because
you
'cause I'm
know?
like, there's gonna be teachers that aren't
Right,
they won't be willing to do that. That's
right,
not what they signed up for,
right.
and that's what sucks is they didn't you know, back then it never used to be like this. They didn't sign up for that. Now we gotta deal with it. So,
So I agree with the
there's gonna be
appointed
people that
staff.
will step up, I'm sure, and there's gonna be people that won't want to.
Right. And then this should be an option, you know what I mean? If that becomes a thing in the future, it should be an option.
Because then if all the teachers did it, right? Now you have to worry about the retention rate and hiring.
Mhm.
Now there's gonna be issues where maybe there's not gonna be enough teachers, and that's a problem
Yeah, and it's already
because
a
they
problem
won't.
now. There's a lot of shortage in teachers lately.
Now imagine if all the teachers had to go through a gun certification
Right.
course, or they have what's it called, like shooter courses,
Mhm.
active shooter courses, um, and they had to go through that. That's gonna intimidate half of those people. We already have a problem with it.
Mhm.
Now we have to, because the pay and et cetera, et cetera. Now on top of that, you have to be prepared and trained to kill somebody. That's terrible. And then See how, like, complex it is? It just trickles down all the way, and, yeah, you do this, but then this.
And I get, like, I know people, right, and their computers being all angry and like, "Oh, why don't they do this? Why don't they change that?" But like you said, it's not as easy what
It's
people think
so
it is.
complex.
You have to go through so many different stages and different scenarios, because then you don't wanna make the wrong move, and then it becomes
Another issue, a different
right,
issue
a
that
different
you didn't
issue, right.
suspect, you didn't know that was gonna come, and it's just so wild, but regardless, do something. If anything, go extremely secure.
And even
And then if
in
you think that you could bump it down and be okay, we cracked nail and tooth on this, but I think we can kind of bring it down a little bit to where it's still regulated, there's still good security, but maybe it doesn't have to be as locked down. But if anything, like security or something, do something that will at least minimize the window for anybody to just walk in. Wasn't there like something where like a grown adult or a parent disguised themselves as a
mhm.
kid and it was like a real thing? It
Yeah,
was like a test or a social experience, something like that,
mhm.
right? And it's the same thing where it's like anybody can do it.
Because,
They
like,
have hours, like,
I
anything could happen.
I go to my mom's class, if I'm visiting her and she has school or whatever, I go with her, but they don't question me. I walk around the hallways, I still look like a kid, you know? Well, maybe not like a kid, but, like, nobody questions me.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I
Did
can
you
just
have a
walk
tag
around the
though?
hallway. No, I didn't,
Oh, see, yeah,
because I didn't go through the front office. Because when we came in, they know my mom, so I'm with her, and so I just came right
yeah.
in.
Now, what do you think? Oh man, this one's gonna be a juicy question. I don't know if I want to ask it, but I think I'm gonna ask it just for like the topic. It's nothing bad, but we just had a podcast on um like death sentence.
Mhm.
In these situations, how do you think the child should be dealt with?
I mean, tried as adult, yes.
If they're being tried as an adult, would that be an open? Could
It
that be
is.
an opportunity
It
for a death penalty?
Yeah, it will be for sure. Now, at 14, your brain is not developed. You still have a lot of maturity and a lot of growth that you have to go through. Now, it doesn't excuse him for what he did. It's not a mistake. You know what I mean? It's not an accident. He didn't just wake up. I'm pretty sure it was premeditated. You know,
But your
it
frontal lobe isn't developed till like 25.
right. So, and like I even mentioned on the podcast with Haley, I believe in rehabilitation for those people. Like I agree with death penalty too, but for being 14, let's try to fix that issue. What was really wrong with him mentally that made him think that this was an okay act? Now, I don't
I think
know.
most of these kids know that it's not an okay act.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the plea is gonna be. Maybe he'll plea insanity plea. We don't know at this point.
I think most of them do, right?
I don't know about most,
Like,
but maybe
what was
some.
that orange-haired kid?
Yeah. He was the one.
Cruz or something?
I
Something
think
Cruz?
who?
Nicholas Cruz.
Nicholas
Yeah.
Cruz. He
Which
was at.
shooting was that one?
Uh,
I think I watched something on him. He pled insanity. But it's like,
but you can see it in the interrogation video. He's playing an act.
yeah, it was fake. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
never watched it.
it was a complete, like, he was just acting like he saw the cameras, I think, and it was a whole act. Whenever they would leave the room, it was back to normal. Whenever they get
Mm.
in there,
The
then
Parkland
the
school.
Parkland one.
What city is that?
That's so terrible that you even have to question which one was that? Or like, what's it like? Come on,
I know.
America.
This is why I have this tattoo. This is a El Paso Mountain tattoo,
It's in Florida.
Florida. I got this after there was a shooting at Walmart, in El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
I went back home right after, cause that touched my heart for sure, because it was literally at the Walmart, like around my neighborhood that we
Mm-hmm.
lived at the time, and so when that happened, that really hurt me because it was obviously, this is different. It's not a school shooting or
Yeah.
anything like that, but it touched home with me because it happened to like our
Your
people,
hometown.
my
Your
hometown.
community.
Right.
Right.
So that really like moved me, and then I donated blood after that, and I did, I mean, obviously I can't stop the
You
situation.
did what you could to try
Yeah.
to feel like you were doing something to help people,
Yeah.
help your community. And I don't know. So, because the question I asked you, if I'm reflecting, if I had to answer that myself, I don't know because
For this guy?
you said rehabilitation.
Yeah,
I'm all for the opportunity of rehabilitation, but I don't think rehabilitation can help somebody that's in that
I
type of
agree.
mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, prison. There's people that make mistakes and they do wrong, and they do rehabilitation. They get back to it. They get back to citing. They do better. You know, and there's a lot that don't, but there's also a lot that do.
Mhm.
We can't ignore that. So rehabilitation, by all means, making an opportunity. But I also believe that these people that do acts like this are evil.
Yeah. But it just makes me sad because as a
There's evil
parental
kids.
perspective, I just wanna hug the kid and be like, "What was so wrong with you, at home?" Like, maybe he tried to reach out, I don't know, like, we don't know all the facts,
And then
you
he,
know?
what if you hug him and then he stabs you in the back?
Well, that's
That's what I'm
different.
saying. Like, it's
Now,
evil. It's just
and
pure
let me
evil.
just full disclaimer, I'm not saying I'm not on his side.
No,
What
no, no,
he
no.
did was
Shh.
terrible,
It's
and I don't condone his actions whatsoever. But again, it's
it's
just
still a
that
child, and
right,
you're trying to figure out
right,
where did all this hurt and
right.
pain come from.
Right, because then I look at my 12-year-old and be like, she's 2 years shy from he was.
Yeah,
And then for him to do such a heinous crime and she's only 2 years younger
and
than
it makes
him.
you think like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
I
Like, are
need to
we
figure out.
doing the right thing to parent these kids? Are we doing like one lady I'm watching this podcast said it right to where we're raising young adults.
Hmm.
That's our job as a parent to
Hmm.
raise them to be good citizen, to be good human,
It's good
to be
morals.
right, like, kind-hearted people and be successful in, just in our civilized, world. And so it really makes you wonder, and the fact that he's 14, like so many life ahead of him, and then now it's ruined for life.
Yeah.
There's no
You'll never recover from that. You'll
no.
always have that replaying of the, even when people just commit murder. Like, imagine a 14-year-old that doesn't know how to deal with his emotions and his mind clearly, doesn't know how to deal with himself and the way he feels. And healthcare is not there for him. So then now you have the aspect of, you have grown adults that can process their feelings and do have a better opportunity to understand how they feel and to work through it, and they still can't, off of like a murder or something like that, or some terrible crime.
Like, I hope he
Imagine a
doesn't.
kid that doesn't even know how to express themselves and then doing something like that. They'll never be able to work through that, so it'll always be a a impact, a per what's it called, permanent. It's a permanent impact on your mental state and your mind.
Like, I hope he never gets out of this world. I hope the justice system does right and, he has a proper punishment. But I hope he can sympathize, hopefully. Like I said, we don't know anything about him. We don't know if he's insane. We don't know his mental state, but I hope he can sympathize the people that he impacted for
I don't
life.
think so.
You don't think so?
If you can't even sympathize with yourself on how you're feeling, how can you sympathize for other people?
Well, I
If he
hope that gets corrected. That's my hope.
I'm all for the, I can hope and pray for that. I
Yeah.
hope. But I don't think there's much opportunity for it
Yeah.
after that. There's such, like you said, their mind isn't developed,
Yeah.
and they've done something that permanently alters their mind. It will never be the same.
Yeah.
That's just, it's just so complex. There's so many different aspects of all this stuff, and it almost feels like there's nothing that we can do but just hope
Mhm.
and have, high hopes that the right thing will come from it, and the right decision will be made, and the sympathy will be there. But all we can do is hope. And I think that's where all the frustration comes, from the parents and the families that are affected, and from people that just, it hits home with them. It's like, all we can do is just hope. Are you
Right.
serious? Do something. And
Right.
that's where it comes into play of, you know, the education system, the government, like somebody needs to figure out how we can help ourselves and how we can help each other, and the children that are going to be the future doctors and engineers and architects and construction workers and police officers and healthcare professions. How can we make sure that we're moving in the right direction if it fails from the very start before they even grow up?
Yeah.
Parenting. How? We're already failing from the jump.
But I think the healthcare part, I think, is the most important
Oh,
part,
yeah.
though, because I'm sure a lot of these people, like, I can barely, I can barely afford it myself. Like, going to the doctors, you got to pay thousands of dollars. Therapy, a lot of insurance do not cover therapy at all.
Yeah.
Unless you have a really, really good insurance,
Yeah.
but majority of them won't.
And therapy is very important for
Yeah.
some people, it really helps. People that never were taught, again, it's taught parenting. I still think this has to do with parenting too.
Mm-hmm.
They were never taught how to express themselves. They were never taught how to deal with that frustration and emotions that they had as a I seen this, I don't know, it's like a new Netflix movie or something. It's called like Old Dads or something like that. And it has to do with like the older generation and the newer generation. It was like a play on like the old versus the new. And they're like the three dads, they own a business or whatever. They're like friends. And one of the kids was like hit the other kid with like a stick or something, and the kid was just acting super obnoxious, like yelling and screaming, blah blah blah. And the dad's trying to like get him under control, and the mom comes out. She's like, What's wrong? What's happening?" The dad's like, "Oh my gosh," because he's about to get embarrassed in front of his buddies because of how the parenting style was. And then the mom was like, "It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Just let it all out. Let it all." And the kid that hit the other kid with the stick that was in the wrong was just like, "Ah!" and just started screaming, right? And it's like, I mean, at least the kid gets to get his feelings and emotions out, right? But that's the thing, is you can never, sometimes for the people that were never taught how to express themselves and how to deal with the frustration and emotions and how to comprehend and understand why they're feeling certain types of ways. That's what the healthcare should be for. That's where the mental health, like, that's where it matters.
Maybe one of the first step is it should be maybe mandatory for every kid in the school to go see a counselor at some point. Not every day, not every week, but maybe once a month or
They would
something.
need more counselors.
For sure. But I mean,
But that could help,
that could
yeah.
help too.
Like checkups. Like it's almost like
Right. Especially with the kids
what's it
that who
called?
have
Welfare check,
yeah.
but for schools.
Right. Like I know my brother who is autistic, like he found a really, really good relationship with his counselor. So
Mhm.
anytime he would feel himself getting a panic attack or just have, really bad anxiety, he doesn't even go to my mom's class because they were in the same school. My mom's a high school teacher. He wouldn't even go to my mom's class. He would go straight to the counselor's office and talk to the counselor. And the counselor is what made him admit to a mental hospital when he was making threats to himself that he was going to hurt himself. So if it wasn't for counselors like that, who knows?
That's what
The
yeah.
worst thing could have
That's a
happened.
good point too.
Right.
More counselors, like welfare checks with the children and making sure that there's a personal relationship, because there's a lot of times where people go to therapists and people go to these different offices and they're just like, "Oh, what are you feeling? Okay, cool. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
You're going to take these pills from now on."
Yeah.
But
Mm-mm.
but there's also ones that truly care and they listen and they
Mhm.
understand, and that has an impact too. Is don't be negligent.
Yeah.
Again, don't be negligent when someone's coming to you and trying to explain it. It's not just a procedure.
Yeah.
It's a personal relationship that these counselors have to have with these children. And for some children, that's very, very important.
Because they probably don't even get that at their own
And
home.
they exactly, and those counselors have an opportunity to change their lives
Right.
and to be that one person for them when they feel like they have nobody.
Right.
That's a good point too.
Well, we're wrapping up for this episode. Very, very heavy topic, but I hope we can raise some awareness too that this is very much of a topic that needs to be discussed and needs to be opened. Hopefully justice is served for the victims and their families that they're going through this, which is crazy. I hope things will change for the
I
future.
I hope they
Something
will. They will. They have to.
they have
They
to.
have to.
I feel like slowly there's making some changes, but not anything drastic
Yeah.
yet. but something
yeah,
needs to
again,
change.
prayers for all the families that have ever been affected by any type of situation like this, not just this one, for all the families, for all the kids. Um, you know, it's should never happen and people should never have to go through that and the loss of a child at all.
You don't
But
ever
in
want
this
to bury
specific,
your child.
yeah, in this specific circumstances, it's even worse because it's the fact that even happened
Yeah.
that way. Um, and if you want to have a conversation in the comments, don't be scared to have a conversation. I'm very open. I don't know about Kerensa, but I mean, I'll be checking the
I'm
conversation.
open. No, I checked the comments too,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've
So
I've responded to a few.
we'll be
So
checking the comments, and if you want to have a discussion about it, two open discussions. No attacking. No none of that stuff. Just an open conversation where we could talk about it, see each other's viewpoints, agree to disagree, or come together to like a little conclusion, and where you could talk about how you feel and why you feel that way.
yep.
So yeah,
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
bye.
Thank you for watching another episode of Legal Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode, you can always give our office a call to schedule your free 30-minute consultation with one of our team members. Check the description below and give us a call today.